And so we're going to talk about a couple of these things. The first thing we got to talk about, man, and this can be a part of just Democrat cities in general, but this to me is one of the most nightmarish and shocking things I've ever seen an American politician do in my life. And maybe that's just my naivety because I'm 34. Maybe something happened at some point. I guess, we had politicians literally shoot each other a couple hundred years ago. So mayor authorizes city to shut off power at Hollywood Hills party house, reportedly belonging to TikTok star Bryce Hall. Despite several warnings, this house has turned into a nightclub in the hills, hosting large gatherings in flagrant violation of our public health orders, Garcetti said. So that's just the story. Look at this. He says, with more than 2,000 Angelenos and over 170,000 Americans lost to COVID-19, we need every resident to undertake critical safeguards to stop the spread of this virus. That includes not hosting or attending parties that put themselves, their neighbors, and many others at risk. Despite several warnings, the house turned into a nightclub. The city has now disconnected utilities at this home to stop these parties that endanger our community. If we wish to reopen more businesses, return our kids to school, or get back to our normal lives, we must continue to wear masks, wash our hands frequently, and as we're emphasizing today, avoid gathering with others. All of these actions save lives. Sure. Actually, the dude put out a TikTok. It's kind of funny. He posted a TikTok Wednesday to the song Electric Love because it looks like the power is out. I'm just going to say I'm not super concerned about a rich dude who owns multiple houses who wants to have big parties in the hills. My concern is the precedent being set where the mayor did this and no one said anything. And you're never going to see a politician walk out and say, I'm going to violate human rights. It's going to start with this. Everyone's going to say that's okay. The next day he's going to say, well, what about this celebrity? That's okay. Within a month, he's going to be like, this small family, this middle class family, we're turning your power off next. They shouldn't have the ability to arbitrarily shut off someone's utilities. And I think this story hits at several things. One, mismanagement of cities, predominantly run by Democrats, and the authoritarianism that's emerged since COVID, where they think they can do anything. And to be honest, nobody's stopping them.
I think what's so troubling for people, it's all confusing, right? Like, go out and protest, it's no problem. Have a party at your house, that's a problem. We're going to let the protest happen. Have a gathering at your house, we're going to stop it. COVID is so bad that we're temporarily suspending all utility shutoffs for people.
Right.
Unless we decide we're going to turn off your utilities. And that's terrifying to me, man. That made me realize that no matter where I am in the city, I have nowhere to retreat to. I have nowhere to go where they can't get me. They can get me just in my house, in my home, doing whatever I want. In Washington, D.C. the other day, there was a party advertised, like flyers on the internet, everything. It was like a block party. And there was like a ton of people there. And the cops were actually on scene. Didn't break it up.
Really?
And what happened there, that was where that mass shooting was. So there was 21 people got shot at this gathering that the cops knew about. So what I'm getting at here is that there's just this inconsistent application of the rules, and that makes people insane because then they don't know what reality is or how to behave or how, what we all depend on is predictability by other people. And if your government is acting in an unpredictable fashion, that could jeopardize your ability to, bathe, feed, and clothe yourself and take care of your family. Well, that's a very unsettling place to be. And where do people take those fears out? Maybe they act out, but maybe they're going to do it in the election booth this year.
I hope so. And I think that's going to be I'm kind of worried about what happens if Trump loses, because we've seen what these states have done. New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, they're putting sick people in nursing homes. People are dying. You look at what LA is doing. You look at what Oregon is doing. 83 nights now they've allowed these riots to go on because the DA keeps releasing them. Apparently, someone emailed me saying, look at the court record. Somebody got charged with 5 felonies. The DA just cut them loose. That's how the riots don't stop. This is what they are doing. I couldn't imagine what would happen if that political party takes control of the executive branch at this time. And then, do you see that viral video from Shasta County, California, where the guy says regular Americans are being peaceful now? But he's like, he basically says civil war is coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's this predictability, man. I just don't know what's going to happen or what they're going to do to me or where things are going to go. And that leaves me very unsettled. How do you invest in the future? How do you decide to have a family? How do you build a community when you don't have any idea the way the law is going to be applied, if there's going to be laws, if there, it's all up in the air. But the troubling thing is really, Tim, I think we just all are acknowledging this. Are things going to get worse if Trump loses? Probably. Are things going to get worse if Trump wins? Probably.
That's a little dark, though.
I mean, well, I don't think electing Trump is going to stop anything. He might begin to chip away at some of it, but imagine the reaction.
For sure. You have the other side.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy now. They're trying to bring Russiagate back.
Right.
And that just shows you that there's disparate realities. But I do think if Trump gets reelected, he's untethered. Right now, his first 4 years was do what I can in a tempered way. And then when it comes to reelection, unleash the beast. And that's what Obama said, right? Remember when that famous, hot mic where he's like, I'll have more flexibility once I get reelected?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they know it's their last term.
Right.
I think
lame duck is such a misnomer. In fact, it's probably subterfuge when they say that a president's lame duck because he's on his way out. No way, man. That's when they can be most aggressive. That's why all those pardons and I almost said the bad word. That's why all those pardons and things happen, at the last minute, at the 11th hour, right? It's because they're on their way out the door and they're less accountable at that point. So I for one, would like to see more aggressive behavior out of Trump. I read a fantastic piece in the Claremont Rivera Review of Books by Michael Anton, and he said there's no problem today that more Trump won't solve. and I think he's probably right. More aggressive towards China, more nationalism, more patriotism, more onshoring manufacturing, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
That he has been hamstrung on.
In terms of these cities, especially though, Trump could invoke the Insurrection Act and he could end it overnight. I don't know if you saw this, what happened with the guy trying to cut the brakes to the NYPD vehicles.
Man.
Did you see that story?
No.
He was accused, I'll say, innocent until proven guilty. I'm a big fan. But the NYPD arrested the guy. They had an informant drive him around. He went to a van. He tried snipping the brake line. He didn't. They arrested him. Local judge cut him loose. The feds swooped in immediately and arrested him on federal charges. And this was really interesting. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm reading this affidavit from the FBI agent, and he says that it's their jurisdiction because NYPD vehicles are used for interstate commerce. Like the feds don't have jurisdiction in local affairs, in state affairs, but they made one up. And it's scary to me because, for one, I don't want the federal government to be able to just arbitrarily assert jurisdiction in state and local matters. But the state is they're not prosecuting these people.
There have been instances in history in which federal assertion of authority domestically using the military was done for a good cause.
Right.
I remember watching most recently a documentary on U.S. Grant. And this guy, he sent the army into the South to end the hangings and to end the KKK, right? Because they were anathema to what we were doing. Antifa and these guys, they are anathema to what we are doing. There is historical precedent to use force in a way to restore the peace that honors our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all the things that we hold dear. And then, what happens after that is the question. I'm not saying I'm advocating for it because, me, Tim, I'm small government. I went to Libertarian University, George Mason. I hate the idea of the feds getting involved in our business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if your state is just failing to take care of people's lives and property, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness fail to be protected, then who do you call?
So the riots, I think, are an easy call. But what about what Garcetti is doing in L.A.? Do you think the feds should intervene and shut down, what they're doing in this capacity?
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to punt that one. But what are they going to do? They're going to order them to just stop managing their utilities in the way that they see fit. I mean, look, when they wanted to get the drinking age raised to 21 across the country, they withheld, I think, like highway funds, right? They're like, we're not going to give you this money to build your highway until you raise the drinking age to 21.
Yeah.
And I think that worked. So there are like levers that you can pull, mostly around money, right? But imagine if Trump cuts off all the money to California to get them to turn the guy's water back on. I mean, in a way, I would be all for it, right? Like, you can't turn I paid my bill. Like, I'm a human being. I'm allowed to drink water. We all are. It's a utility. It's a monopoly. It's regulated. It's there to provide a service. And by the way, the official policy is to not cut off utilities in this time of crisis.
It's also like the policy is to let people out of jails and they're literally arresting people and putting them in jails for like running a business or something.
Right.
Nothing. It's like you said, it's asymmetric enforcement of the law.
Right. Right.
People are going to snap.
And the enforcement is on things that we need as humans. For example, we need human interaction, socialization, and community to be happy, healthy, actualized creatures. We need that, but they're banning it. Yeah. We need to exercise and work out and be fit and healthy, but they're banning that. We need it. Why are they attacking all the things that we do to help us, to help our health, to help our sanity?
But isn't this for the most part Democrats?
I think it is almost exclusively.
Yeah. There have been some Republican states that have had lockdowns, but they've been minor or none entirely. I mean, South Dakota rejected Trump's stimulus offer because they were like, it's okay. Most of our people have returned to work, so we don't need the bonus.
I love looking at South Dakota. It is definitely an extreme example given how big it is and how few
Right.
people live there. Their governor, though, I could definitely see supporting her in the future in some larger endeavor. She's got the whole package, man. She really does. She'd be fantastic. I could support her in future elections. Kristi Noem.
Do you think she'll run for president?
I mean, I watched that speech she gave at Mount Rushmore, and I was like, I tweeted out that night, when can I vote for you for president?
Wow. They threw a parade for her. So for those that aren't familiar, she refused to lock down. And South Dakota was one of the, there was this chart released. I fact checked me on this one. I saw this chart and it was talking about GDP. All of the states are negative. South Dakota was like 0.08% positive, like at a time of crisis. And like you said, it's an extreme example. It's not so much of a dense population relative to New York or whatever, but she did what was right for her state. And the media was relentlessly attacking her, saying it was the new hot spot. It was, COVID was out of control. It wasn't. It was, I looked at the numbers from John Hopkins and it was like right in the middle. So you had the worst state in the country is New York. And then it was like ranked 27, South Dakota. Like it's not even, it was right there in the middle. So it's not an outlier, but because she was defiant, the media just went, was just totally relentless. I think that's a big, ally of the Democrats. Obviously they just push the same narrative.
Right. Well, the narrative is what matters. Facts don't matter. Right and wrong don't matter. Human rights don't matter. Your personal well-being and safety don't matter. Your personal happiness and health don't matter. Consistency, logic, and reason, they don't matter. Honoring the Constitution and the law of the land, that doesn't matter. Federalism, that doesn't matter. States' rights, that doesn't matter.
I got a real funny story for you.
Hit me.
So recently, a friend of ours who is not from America, we're hanging out, and she said, "Hey, I have a question. The Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." And I was like, right. And she goes, "Then why can't you have a gun?" And then everyone started laughing because it was like from the outside, you see the Second Amendment and you're like, that's clear. And then you actually come to the States and you're like, okay, so the Constitution doesn't matter?
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yep.
We can talk about guns later if you want. There was a really big case that came out of the 9th District that allows for greater than 10 magazines, round magazines, and
Yep.
And in DC where I live, those are strictly prohibited. So hopefully
NJ2?
that will get turned over.
Yeah, I think, I bring up Second Amendment more so as just a general issue of the Constitution, which is Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
It is one way to put it. I mean, they've punched so many holes in that. It actually scares me how it really does come back to, for more so, the Democrats, but Republicans as well. It's, our current system of governance is disrespectful to the Constitution. You've got people saying, it's a living document, and I respect that because we do amend it and we do make changes and we do interpret. But certain things I look at, and I've been much more of a constitutionalist as of the past year or so, especially with how the Democrats have been violating people's rights. And I really got to say, look, maybe it's because I live in New Jersey, and this is probably the worst state in the country in terms of the authoritarian lockdown.
Yeah.
You know that Atlas gym?
Yeah.
They're right down the street.
Oh, is that really?
Yeah, it's super close.
Huh.
And those are the guys who got arrested, had their business license taken away.
I watched that guy bust down the door to his
Yep.
own gym. I love that guy. I mean, dude, go for it. Like, stand up for what's right. Before we started recording, we were talking about we need meaning in our life. And what's interesting about these COVID lockdowns and all this tension is actually giving meaning to some people who are finding it in resisting this stuff. They're finding meaning in resisting it. And like this guy now had a mission of helping people get healthy and fit, but now he's got a mission of standing up for himself and for what's right and for his community. Like this guy's inspired and he's willing to take risks and put himself at risk. And I admire that. I admire people that are willing to stand up for what they believe to be true, not just true today, but like universal truths that transcend history.
Yeah.
Right? Like these people should be free to get healthy.
Think about it. If you're fit, you are less likely to get sick and die. That's just obvious. Now, I will add, my thing is, follow the law. You know, I guess you can say within reason, because I'm actually a big fan of civil disobedience, nonviolent, because I think that's where we as a society accept people push the line. For this guy to kick his door in, that's nonviolent civil disobedience. I mean, you could argue that kicking the wood that he put up off, or I don't know if the city did it or not.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
You could argue you're getting close into vandalizing property or whatever, but it's a piece of plyboard.
It's his property.
Right. And so I look at this, and I look at the Bevelyn Beatty when she threw the paint on the Black Lives Matter in New York.
Yeah.
Nonviolent civil disobedience. Now, I'll tell you this. If we were in normal times and someone showed up and kicked in the plyboard on a building and came in, I'd be critical of it.
Yeah.
Not super critical. I'd just be like, look, follow the law. There's better ways to do this. But now you've got Antifa going around tearing down statues, and the Democrats say it's peaceful protests. You actually had a state Democrat in Virginia charged with 2 felonies for conspiring to tear down one of these statues that actually fell on a dude's head and nearly killed him.
Dang.
So when you actually have, you literally have Democrat politicians joining in, planning this stuff, engaging in all this stuff. You want me to be critical of a dude who kicked his own, gym door in?
Or when the Democrats in California are shutting off your access to water, the most important thing that we have. Water is life.
Yeah.
You don't get it. None.
And that's where. So just to clarify too, they're inching towards it. That's my fear.
I see.
They've authorized the termination of the utilities here. They shut off. It says power. I just want to make sure everybody, But he straight up said. He said, "We'll shut off your power and electricity" at a press conference.
Got it.
So it's like pointing the loaded gun of a human rights violation at your face, and this is them cocking the hammer back when they go to this guy. The UN said taking away water from people because they can't afford to pay the bill is a human rights violation.
But taking it away from them because you want to crack the whip over their head, that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think one of the things that we're feeling too is just like there's lawlessness, right? So when they tore down a statue in DC, I was out of town, thankfully, because God knows if I would have been there, I might have been there, and what would have happened. And I had this feeling of just being violated. Right? There are people just running around the city, tearing things down, destroying things, taking the law into their own hands, vigilantes, basically. And when you have this instability, this unstable feeling, it just disrupts all parts of your life, which is why we all need to focus more on our health and our nutrition and our sleep, because we have to be actually physically strong and resilient to deal with this, because it is a psychological warfare that they're playing on us.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify. And we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.